Hey everybody, welcome back to Decode Tech and another video in our Python tutorial series. We've been talking about collections or different ways to store multiple values in the last couple of videos. We looked at lists and tuples or tuples in the last two videos, and this video is going to be about Python dictionaries. Now, a dictionary is also known as an associative array or a hash table in other programming languages. So you might hear people called Python dictionaries a hash table or maybe associative array. So basically what a dictionary is a way to associate one value with another value. And these are called key value pairs. And so let's dive into VS Code and take a look at this. So to create a dictionary, on line 2, I have a variable called my_dict, and a list used just square brackets, and we saw a tuple uses parentheses. Well, to create a dictionary, you use curly braces or curly brackets. And then I said these dictionaries store key value pairs. So we have a key, and then a colon, and then a value. And then that is one item in this dictionary. Then I could do a comma and put another key value pair, and so on, key value. And this space doesn't really matter, but I like to put it in for formatting purposes. Now these key values can be all kinds of different data types. They can be strings, they can be integers, they can even be another dictionary. Well, the values can be another dictionary. The keys have some rules to them. And the main rule is a key has to be an immutable data type. Remember, we said immutable means it cannot be changed, whereas mutable means it can be changed. So you cannot use a list for a key, but you could use a list for a value, and you could use a dictionary for a value. So like you can have a list inside of a list, you can have a dictionary inside of a dictionary. So let's see a little bit better of what this actually looks like. I was just using these key values just to give you a visual of how it looks. So for a key, let's use a string. Let's say the string is John. And let's say we want to associate an age with John, so we're just going to use an integer of 14. Then we could do comma, and we could have another person say Bill. Then we need a colon, and we could associate 18 with Bill. So now we have two key value pairs, John 14 and Bill 18. And they are separated by that comma between them. So this is the key, this is the value. This is the key, this is the value. The keys are strings in this case, and the values are integers. But they could be just another string, for example, if you wanted to, but we will keep it an integer in this case. So now how do we access data from a dictionary? We saw with lists we could do indexing, like the name of the list, or in this case the name of our dictionary, with square brackets right after the name, and then the index number, 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on, as long as your list is. Well, with a dictionary, instead of an index, we use the key. And the reason we use keys is because dictionaries are not ordered data structures. In other words, a list is ordered. If you make a list and you display it then, it'll display in the exact order that you entered data into the list. A dictionary might not always be in the same position. For example, if I would just print out my dict, it might print Bill before John. So we say dictionaries are unordered collections. So I'm going to actually copy my dict down below my comment for accessing values. And instead of an index, I'm going to put a key. So let's put John in here, if I can spell it right. And we're going to have to wrap it with print so it actually displays to the console. Then I'm going to run this code. And you see we get the value 14 printed to the console. So that worked as we expected. And instead of John, we could put in Bill, and that should work as well. And sure enough, we get 18 printed out. So I'm just going to get rid of this print statement here so this doesn't print out every time I run code. And now we're going to look at how you can search a dictionary. Well, just like lists and tuples, you can use the in keyword. So I could do if John in my dict, I could say print, I'm just going to print the boolean true. And so I'll run this, and if it's in there, it should print true. Sure enough, it does. And to prove it, I'll take out the H just to show that if John without an H isn't in there, it should just not do anything because whatever's inside the if statement won't print out unless this evaluates to true. All right, let's look at some dictionary methods. Remember, a method is just a function, just like print is a function in Python, or int, open and close parentheses is a function. Remember, functions have open and close parentheses right after their name. And this function is just tied to an object. We're going to get into objects later. Basically, everything in Python is an object. So dictionaries are objects, integers are objects, string are objects, and pretty much everything is an object. So the dictionary object we have in this case is stored in the variable my_dict. So I'm going to do mydict dot, and there's dot keys, there's dot values, there's dot items, and there's dot clear. And that's not every dictionary method there is out there, but it is some of the more popular used ones. So let's look at dot keys first. And so if I do dot keys and it needs open and close parentheses, this will return, for all intensive purposes, a Python list of just the keys of the dictionary. So we should get John and Bill. And it actually returns what's called a view, but that's not real important. Just think of it as a list because that's going to be the behavior we get back from it. So I'm going to do print and print out these keys. So let me run this. And you see it says dict keys because that's kind of like the view. And then inside this, you see square brackets. That means we have a list of John and Bill. So we got a list of the keys. Likewise, mydict.values gives us a list of the values. So let's run this. And sure enough, we get a list. There's the square brackets again of 14, 18. And now let's look at mydict.items and let's run this. And what .items gives us is a list of tuples. So notice the parentheses and Bill 18 and John 14. So we have two tuples separated by a comma inside a list. So you'd first have to index the list and then you'd have to index the value inside the tuple to get access to that value. And one last method we'll look at is .clear. And what this does is clears out the contents of the dictionary. So I'm just going to print this out and it should just print out an empty, or actually none instead of an empty dictionary, because we're printing out what clear returns, and that's an empty dictionary, so it just gives you Python none. But if you would instead down here print out mydict, it should give you an empty dictionary. And so let me run that, and there we get empty brackets, meaning an empty dictionary. And this none I'll explain better in a future video when we look at functions, but for now just know that it clears out your dictionary. Alright, so let's look at deleting from a dictionary. So like before, we can use the del keyword and we could use the name of the dictionary, my_dict. That would delete our whole dictionary. Now the .clear method we just looked at clears the dictionary, but it doesn't delete the dictionary. This del keyword actually deletes the whole dictionary. Or if you'd rather just delete one key value pair from the dictionary, you can use square brackets like you do to access the value. And you have to put the name of the key, and in this case it would just delete the John key value pair. Okay, but I'm going to actually delete that because I don't want it to delete John, and I'm going to add another value to my dictionary just manually here, and I'm going to put in Charles, and I'm going to put in his age as 22. Now I have 3 values. Now there's no defined order to this dictionary, so if we would like to sort it, how could we go about sorting it? Well, let's just go down here to line 15 and try to sort this. Well, we know that there's a method to get the keys in a list, and a list can be sorted. So what if we would do the sorted function that's built into Python that we saw can sort a list? So let's do a loop. Let's do for key in mydict, so getting our dictionary, .keys, so the .keys method, and that returns us a list of keys. Now let's wrap that in the sorted function because that should give us the sorted keys from our dictionary. So I need to make sure I get the correct amount of parentheses open and closed here. And then I need a colon at the end of my for loop. And then that means a block of code is coming. And now I'm going to say print, and I'm going to use a format string with F and then my string. I'm going to put a placeholder with curly brackets, and I'm going to say print me the key. We already have the key stored in this key variable. Again, it's just a variable. We could have called it whatever we wanted, but since it gets each item in whatever is after the in, and in this case it's returning dictionary keys, I thought key would be a good name. So I put print key and then space, put another placeholder, and now we want the value that is associated with that key. And to get that, we have to use the name of our dictionary and write like index notation, except we use the key again. And in this case, the variable key is storing our key. So here we're actually printing out what the key is, and here we're printing out the value associated with that key. And these should print out in sorted order of the keys because we sorted this list of keys we got back from the MyDict dictionary. So let's run this and see if it behaves as expected. And sure enough, we get Bill first, then Charles, then John. So that is how you could sort a dictionary if you wanted to. And dictionaries are a very useful data structure in Python. You could use it to store names and phone numbers, or names and addresses, and all kinds of other things. So remember, dictionaries are made with curly brackets syntax, and they store key value pairs. And one thing to note is the keys have to be an immutable data type. And to access a value in a dictionary, use the name of the dictionary with bracket notation, and then a key inside to get the value. All right, before we go, I have a challenge.py here, and this challenge is going to be to print the pairs of a dictionary one at a time, like we just did, but sorted by the values instead of the keys. Now this is a little bit more tricky. So I have a dictionary already made for you on line 2. You can make up your own if you want, but I have 3 key value pairs, and I have Peter 3, James 1, and John 2. And so I want you to go through this dictionary and sort it by its keys, which would be the 1, 2, 3. So if you pause the video and try to figure this out, then come back in a couple seconds and I'll show you the solution. Alright, so there might be other ways to solve this, but this is how I solved it. I took mydict.values to get a list of the values, and then I sorted that list with a sorted function, and I named the variable value. Then I nested a for loop on line 17 and got the keys of the dictionary. And so basically each iteration of the values, I'm iterating through all of the keys. And each time I iterate through all the keys, I say if mydict.key, which would give you the value of the key you're at, equals, notice the double equals sign for equality, the value that I'm on in my values list, then I want to print the key and the value. So this should give us the result we're expecting. And I'll run it just to show that it works. And sure enough, we got 1, 2, 3 printed out in order. And if you're still confused about how that works, I suggest you use breakpoints like I've showed earlier in this series in VS Code and actually walk through the program and see what variables are storing what and why things are working the way they are. So this does it for my dictionaries video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. I'd be glad to try to help you out. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. And as always, I hope to see you in the next video.